Hello, good evening, everybody. I'm your host, Justin Rich, aka Countless. Today, my guest is Kimberly Ward, Dr. Kimberly Ward, mental health professional. Today, we're going to talk about resources for mental health, how to get mental health in the virtual age, and ways to cope with mental health. So, I'm going to bring her on, introduce herself, and we'll get started. All right, how you doing, Kimberly?
Hello, I'm finding you.
I'm doing well. So, tell us about yourself.
I am a I'm Kimberly Ward, licensed clinical social worker. I'm licensed in Washington D.C., Maryland, Virginia, Delaware, and West Virginia. And I've been working in social work for years. I started out in 2005 on my journey as a in the child welfare arena. And then I started working in outpatient mental health as of 2012, where I started providing therapy. And on my journey through the years I've been doing the work, I decided to start my own business, which is a private practice called Kim Cares Wellness Services, LLC. I started as of July 2020, and I provide virtual online therapy as well as distant Reiki and clinical supervision for those who are seeking hours towards their licensure in the state of Maryland, where I'm a board approved supervisor in the state of Maryland.
Okay, great. So, tell us what got you into mental health, and from day one.
Honestly, I remember not thinking of going this path actually. I remember watching Good Times when I was young, and all I saw from Good Times was uh, when Penny was removed from the home. And that's what I thought social worker was when I was young, not knowing that it was very diverse and that was so many opportunities in the social work field itself. And so I went to college. I changed my major so many times, and I realized most of my classes was in social work. So I said, you know what, I'm going to do social work because I was ready to graduate, not realizing that there was a connection to the reason why I went into social work, which is because of my own experiences that I've encountered with self esteem and some trauma that I had witnessed as a child.
Okay, great. So talk about how has going to therapy helped you as a mental health professional and as like a regular person.
Mental health has helped me personally. Let me start there because I think you have to start with yourself. And I think that's very important because in order to do the work to help others, you got to do your own work to be able to work with others as well. And so I started because I had a lot of anxiety and some depression in my past because of fears that I've encountered, as well as incidents that I've witnessed. I witnessed domestic violence when I was a child, as well as really seeing alcoholism in my family and some substance use. I did not engage in those behaviors, but I've witnessed them personally myself.
Okay,
And so
great.
that's why I started.
Mm.
That's what I went to therapy because I felt, you know, you go through life, you've been in, you witness things, and you feel like you're not good enough because of that experience. So it started there, and I think with professionally because of what I've encountered and the work that I did for myself as time went on, I decided to be able to support others who may be impacted by the journey.
Okay, great. So in your experience, why would you recommend therapy to somebody to say they may like I don't have issues, I don't need that, I'm good. Why would you recommend therapy to somebody if they, even if they are like in the good spirits? Why would you recommend therapy to somebody?
Honestly, because I was just having conversation with someone about this today actually, and so we go through life and we don't realize always that there's some trauma that we may have encountered. We think certain patterns are healthy, whether it's abuse, whether it's trauma as a child, where you might have witnessed your parent or alcoholism or substance use or an incarcerated parent. You don't realize always that that impacts you. So as you go through life, you think, or you could think that that's normal. And so you think that going through life and going through it and is okay, nothing wrong with you. But then when you get in, whether you get into a relationship or whether you associate with other peers, you don't think that is nothing wrong. And it's not everyone, but I have talked to a number of individuals who have been in those circumstances. And that's the reason why it's very important to be open to it, especially when you come from a family where that everything is in the house. We don't take nothing outside. It's promoted as not, is okay.
Okay, great. So, what are some like mechanisms you think for like coping with mental health and like some like outside and inside of like I say like a session after the session too, so somebody could like get better. I believe you get better as you like after the session, you know. So what would you say to that?
Yes. So to that, I say that you have to go with different tools. There's so many tools out there. And so one of the tools is you might really start journaling. You might listen to some music that's calming or engaging in mindfulness strategies. And one of my favorites actually is guided imagery. And so that's just watching, like, I watch a lot of it on YouTube. And it's just imagine yourself to be at a place, whether it's a beach, and it's just walking you through the thoughts that you would have while you're at the beach, while listening to it on YouTube. So it's really so many different coping strategies out there, but those are my go-tos actually, and I actually talk to clients and my um, peers or friends of mine about it. So just to provide that support or thinking positively is another thing too, and trying to walk them through that, whether they're going through some difficult times in their lives. It's just being a person of support.
Okay, great. So what are some issues you find in the black community that you find like, over and over again that like we're dealing with that we need to like address?
Honestly, it's just a lot of injustice that's going on right now, and it's been going on for years. You got racism. And so the problem is when things haven't changed and within the black community, it affects them. And of course, I feel affected as well. And so it's like the you have the Black Lives Matter movement. You have set the following like George Floyd, who's been murdered, or even Philando Castile, and so many others who have been murdered senselessly. They shouldn't have that shouldn't have happened. And then nothing has been done, so people are fed up because this has happened. And it also continues to be some systemic racism that continues to happen, whether in an organization, people are not up for promotion or moving up. Another thing I want to share though is certain organizations may not have members of color that's on these leadership roles and positions. And so that's another issue. So I think that within the black community, is all those issues, and then the fact that even though the voices have been spoken, the problem is no one is they're feeling like, as well as myself, not being heard.
Yeah, cause it could feel like roller coaster sometimes, like you're in a hamster wheel too. So like, what are some methods you have for like I know it's hard to deal with racism like on like head on too, because like sometimes we're not the problem, it's like the other side too. So like, what are some methods you have to like help them deal with it too, so they don't like feel like they're not being heard, or like they're feeling like they have a voice, and they feel like somebody's behind them and backs them up.
I honestly, I I'm a therapist, and I'm gonna tell you this. Someone that I talk to, and of course, I'm the therapist. That's been an issue, and it's a number of incidents that happen in the news where um, black people of color been murdered by the cops, for instance, and this happened. So one of the individuals that I speak to, she was going to the therapist, not of color, by the way. And that therapist did not want her to talk about an incident that happened late last year. And so, of course, that did not spark her interest in continuing with that therapist. The main thing is being there to let them speak and let them feel heard. Because what happens is if they're not feeling heard, they're going to go somewhere else for therapy. You're not supporting them. You're not um, letting them talk during their time in session about this issue because it affects and impacts the black community.
Mm. Yeah, it's very powerful, very powerful. So in the day and age with all like the protests going on too, and this like having to still deal with like life and all that too, and then also the COVID too. Like, what are some ways you could
Mhm.
recommend to people seek out resources of like mental health in this day and age? I know everything's like virtual now too, but some people may have a hard time like trying to like adjust to that too. So, what are some things you recommend for that too?
There are so many resources out there for those who are in need of therapy. You have your not only your insurance companies, but you have if you have Medicaid, you got you can go you can look for a provider who accepts it. You also have EAP if you have employment. You can go through your EAP. You can also go through Teledoc, which are telehealth platforms, as well as Amwell. And also, they have websites like OpenPath. For instance, OpenPath. Actually, I just got a referral from OpenPath last week, and I met with the young lady today actually. And basically, with OpenPath, when I'm on there or anyone as a therapist, you agree not to charge that person between $30 to $60, no more than that, or within that range itself only, as the therapist. And actually, the lady that reached out was actually she is in the actually her job hours have been cut. So of course she had limitations with being able to afford therapy, the actual therapy rate. So those are for those who may have like limited income or they need something like affordable for themselves.
Mm. Okay, that was my next question too. So, just a little about like affording and where do people look to? Because now people like they may have insurance, they may not be working now too. So it's like you were saying before, they have like programs that are out there that like they could look and like what would you suggest? Like, would you suggest like Google, like Facebook, reaching out on social media? What would you recommend for that?
You can do Google search, Facebook. Also, you'll be amazed at how many people you come across that are aware of this. Like, because they might be in therapy themselves, and they might come across and tell you about that resource itself. There's also options like, let's say someone needs therapy, and especially with what's going on right now, and people have lost jobs or laid off. There is an option, and I do believe in being insuring it. There's an option of asking if that provider can offer a sliding scale fee. That's basically if, let's just say, you don't, you're in a certain income bracket and you're unable to afford the actual rate for therapy. You can ask if that's an option with that therapist. And if it is, the therapist has their own way to identify like which rate can you pay, and they'll ask you, can you pay this rate based on your income with the chart that they may have in their practice. So that's another option, as well if someone is interested in seeking mental health services.
That's great. That's great. So, how has the mental health industry changed over the years? Let's say about last 5 years. How's it changed?
Oh wow, it has changed. I've seen, of course, more virtual now. That's number one. More people I'm coming across actually are into virtual, and they feel that it is much easier to do virtual therapy versus being in the office setting. And another change that happened in a shift, I remember starting foster care, being a foster care worker. And the foster care, the way the foster care was set up when I first started is totally different than it is as time went on. And so the children have changed. There's so much more trauma that kids have been exposed to now than in the past. Not saying that it didn't exist in the past, but it's just so much that is happening that is not only on the news, but affects the community as well.
Okay, great. So, next question is a big one. So, after a session, what are some ways people could cope and like carry on that positive feeling after they have a therapy session?
First things first, one of the options is definitely utilizing your supports, whether it's close friends or family that you are connected to. Maybe y'all might do a virtual chat, or maybe y'all talk on the phone, or do some activities online as well. Like I play game online with one of my friends actually right now. So that's a way to stay connected with people. Also, getting involved in like activities such as paint night. They have them available virtually as well. Um, and also like really listening to music. There's Calm apps. There is Headspace for professionals. So it's a lot of options that people can tap into um, these days, especially with the circumstances that we're in at this time.
Okay, great. So, what advice do you have for young beginnings therapists out there that want to get into the industry, not sure how, or like in it, but like they can't like not sure how to like deal with all these like people are like they met probably straight out of college and they get this beginning, they're not sure what to do, how to like act.
hmm Yes, I actually went through that myself. I was young, new in the field myself. I mean, it's different from my experience, what I've learned in college versus being out there into the real world doing the work. It is two different things. What you experience in your internship is not going to be entirely the same as a job. So, my advice is for those that really want to do it, really you have to really have your heart into this work, because honestly you may come across so much abuse or a number of abuse situations, neglect, that could really hit home, hit your heart so much. So really being aware of that. I also recommend, if it's, if you get to the point where I need to talk to somebody, use see if you can see a therapist to help you process through this time as um, a young social worker or mental health professional that is getting into this. So I definitely highly recommend that. And also really knowing, getting, because when you start out, you're getting experience. It might be a starting point, but really, it is not your long term goal or path unless you choose for that to be your long term goal path. So, always being open, working, if you want to work and get some experience temporarily, being open to like looking at other options out there as you are navigating and working and getting that experience to really expand and grow into the field.
Okay, great. So another tough question. How do we method to deal with like mental health without the police being involved? If you can answer that, or
Hmm. Um, so honestly, the police being involved can be very uncomfortable for people. I can speak on it in the sense of as far as when it comes to maybe child abuse, because I used to work in social services at one point and in the social work field. It can be very uncomfortable. So normally I try to start, if it is possible, to really, like, let's just say I can't get a hold of the family, I'm trying everything to contact them, and you might be concerned about the neglect, then that's when you have to call the child protective services. Now child protective services may involve the police on their end, but not necessarily me. But one thing that I've done is always, in the beginning of like therapy, really letting them know, of course I respect HIPAA and confidentiality. But if it comes to a point where it's suspected abuse or neglect, for instance, then I am obligated by law to contact Child Protective Services. I've been, being upfront with them on that. How we can deal with the police, however, that's, it's challenging. But if we could start with the family and really trying to do as much as we can to connect with them and being upfront with them as much as we can do, then that's a way we can engage with that family without the involvement of the police.
okay, great. So two more questions.
Hmm.
So in terms of the new normal, what would you say the new normal is for? It's different for everybody, but from your perspective, what would you say new normal is?
I have to say that can change amongst different people, but it's hard to say this is a new normal because we're not used to this situation itself, like with COVID and being in a home. Of course, we want to be safe. That's very important. But being in a situation that we are in now, where we're limited to go out and connect with our friends physically outside, being able to go like to different movies or events, that's that's changed a lot since the COVID situation, and we're have to follow the guidelines, within state and requirements. So I feel like now, because we've been home so much, um, I would say it became like a new normal, but I still feel though that it's not normal for me, only because my outlet has been going out to do different things. That's been my outlet. So that's what I would say to that.
Okay, great. And then finally, last question. Advice for those people unsure about their futures, like unemployment and just dealing with their mental health and maybe afraid to be sick. Though, you have any like words for them to help them get through?
To help them get through, basically utilize your support as much as you can. Also really like, if you are believe in religion, prayer, connected with people who are spiritual, if that's what you choose to do, as well as definitely finding some ways. And I know it's hard for those who are so used to getting out and coming and going lots of places, but definitely trying to do, there's creative things to do. Like, for example, somebody was suggesting to me, like, another professional, um, I know you want to go to the beach, like I want to go to the beach, but he said, okay, maybe you're not able to go to the beach because of what's going on, but there's a local park where it can be near water. And so there's other ways that you can do certain things, even virtual. They have like virtual field trips online. You can go on YouTube and look at different places you may want to go to. Even though it's not going to be the same, but really getting your mind there. And like I say, journaling, really engaging in a lot of relaxation, taking, getting as much rest as possible, getting as much exercise and trying to really go out in nature, like going outside your house down the street if you can, to really get a walk if possible. So those are things that I would say to that.
Okay, great. I know you talked about in the beginning your business, but if you could share a little light on that too, because people that missed it in the beginning.
hmm So my business is called Kim Cares Wellness Services LLC, and basically I have uh, online virtual therapy as well as clinical supervision for those who are seeking licensure as a licensed master social worker in the state of Maryland, which I'm a board approved supervisor and provide distant Reiki as well on my in my business. My website is www.kim cares wellness
Okay, great. Thank you for coming on and sharing your experience and talking about mental health. It's really important that during this time especially. But is there anything else you'd like to share, or we may have missed any topic you want to discuss and people out there may need help with?
Um, so basically, definitely, what I would say mainly is doing as much as you can to take care of you during this time. Really turning to people that are of support, staying connected with loved ones and friends, checking on your friends too. Definitely checking on people and just making sure everyone is doing okay, or if they need a helping hand, reach out to them. You definitely want to stay connected because we never know what may be going on with someone else if we don't take the time to check in on them. So those are things that I would say as well.
Okay, thank you for coming on again. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you very much.
This has been the Countless Vlogcast with my guest, Kimberly Ward, mental health professional. Thank you guys for watching. Follow me on YouTube, the Countless Vlogcast. Also on Facebook, Justin Rich. Make sure you follow Kimberly on Facebook and their website. And thank you guys for watching.
All right,